In with what's the problem, what's the solution, and how do we ensure that this never happens again. And so that's what we've been here doing today, oversight, just asking questions, seeing what's been going on. In particular, from my background, one of the things that they saw early on was the routing of the trucks. If y'all remember, I think everybody did a news segment on how the trucks were backed up and down the road. Well, you see it's cleared out now. That it was just a simple change of how the trucks were routed throughout the facility. So there's been a lot of things going on. We're moving from very antiquated old buildings that were very much hand-driven into new technology. So there were some people issues in getting training up to date. I know that in March was the low point of when the mail was being delivered, and it's moving its way up. It's not there yet, but we had a really good conversation. This reminds me of an old corporation, one that's been there for a long time and for some reason didn't really make investments and keep up with the pace of innovation and technology. And then at some point you wake up and it's like the facilities are worn out, you're not using the manual labor like you should, and everything's gone to a easier, cheaper type of freight movement. And so they needed to do this. They didn't need the disruption. Therefore, that was why the pressure was put on to get questions and answers. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. When my constituents need something, that's what we're there for. And that's our job, is take care of our constituency. So it was our job to get out here and find out what's been going on. They feel like that this thing may be back up a little bit better here in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We'll make sure that they do that. We'll make sure that we are continuing to monitor the situation and talk with the right folks, and if anything starts to go backwards again. But this time, I know my colleagues are here. I was going to turn it over to Congressman Scott for a few words.
Thanks, Mike. And I guess I'd like to address why the change. And one of the things that I think Americans realize is the volume of first-class mail is down. It's down 60% over the last 20 years. And if you look at the volume of packages, it has gone up exponentially over the last 20 years. And so the facilities that we had were designed around that first-class mail delivery. And now most of what the U.S. Postal Service is doing is packages. And so there are changes that had to be made. Our concern has been on the timely delivery of the packages. We had great conversation with the leadership in there today, just a little while ago. They are very convinced that within the next 6 to 8 weeks that first-class mail delivery will be back to on time at the same percentages that it was prior to the changes. But again, the reason for the changes is that first-class mail delivery is down 60% over the last couple of decades, and obviously the package volume has gone way up. So the old facilities designed around first-class mail simply were not efficient. This current facility is going to be efficient, and I think ultimately within the next several weeks we'll have a not just a solution, but a system that much better serves the American citizens. And I'd like to turn it over now to Andrew Clyde.
Thank you, Austin, and thank you, Mike, for organizing this, and thank you to the Postal Service. I want to tell them that we had a very informative meeting, and we got a tour of the facility to see exactly how they are renovating and how they are modernizing. The entire intent of the postal facility, the postal system, is on-time delivery. Before this hiccup that happened here in Georgia, the postal system delivery rates for first-class mail was about 90% on-time delivery. We saw that earlier in the spring drop down to about 50% from their gauging right now. They're back up to about 72%. And as you've heard now twice, within the next hopefully 6 to 8 weeks, we'll see that get back up to the 90% of where it was on what they call on-time delivery plus one, which is one extra day. Then we are seeing that at about 88% right now. So it's great when people can modernize and bring a system up from where it was originally designed in the 1970s and 1980s to modern day 2024. I thank the post office for making that kind of investment. Atlanta had issues as great as any particular system in the entire United States. In fact, it was worse than most of them. And so this was a place that they knew needed to be fixed. And to take the multiple old facilities and to move them into this new facility was a challenge for them. They had some labor issues that was part of the cause of the delay. But I think they have overcome that now and are on their way up, as we see by the actual percentages of on-time delivery. And so I'm encouraged to see that, and I fully expect that as we in Congress continue our oversight, that the Postal Service will increase its performance. And with that, Mike, you want to take any questions that you have? We're happy to take.
We had Senator Ossoff here a couple of weeks ago. This seems to be one of those rare things that's getting a lot of attention in a bipartisan nature. How aligned are you guys with senators, with Democrats on the solutions that need to happen here?
Well, I think when I took a look at what the major problem was, you're going to have things come up. I mean, you know, take for instance here, he had a trucking company that went bankrupt right in the middle of the transfer. He had another one that had a contract that was due to renew, and they didn't renew. So you're going to have hiccups like that, as Andrew said, when you have when you can only move employees 3 times a year. It led to a lot of training issues. And so there were a bunch of hiccups. But that's not the major problem that I saw here. The major problem I saw was a lack of communication. You know, I'm in small business. We all three are in small business. And usually when you have a problem, if you'll just go to your customer and say, hey, listen, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're doing, just ride with us. They'll not, 9 times out of 10, they'll go with you. But we were kept in the dark on what we saw that may be happening here. And when you have everything from small businesses that send out their receivables and get their invoices in through the mail, and with the way inflation is and the way everybody's cash tight, they were calling with the problem. When you have elderly people that are getting their checks in every month or their prescriptions in, and we really didn't have a good answer for them. And so that was where we started putting the pressure on here to make sure that we get some sort of answer that we can give our constituents.
Gentlemen, there are members of Congress in other states who are opposing consolidations of this nature, citing this experience. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Postal Service should go ahead with more sort of large regional centers like this? Or is this proof that they should not do that?
No, I don't think that this is proof that they should not do that. They knew Atlanta was going to be a serious challenge. It is one of the older facilities that they have. I believe the plan, as we understood, is to go to 60 regional distribution and processing centers across the United States. And I think this is number 8 on the list right now. So within the next 3, 4, 5 years or so, they expect to do that. And as you see, the processing times are increasing, coming back up. And I think that modernization is always a good thing. And if this is what needs to happen, then as long as it's done in a smart and efficient way, I think it's the right path.
I'd go a little further even than that. If you have a system that is built on first-class mail, and that volume has fallen 60% over the last 20 years, and you don't have a system that accounts for the increases in the package volume, then that system simply won't survive. And so not building the distribution systems like this, I think, is a refusal to acknowledge the reality on the ground. And so I think all three of us look at it as business owners and recognize change had to happen, or the inefficiencies were going to continue to cost the taxpayers money, and the process was going to continue to get slower.
I would agree. I think that what the motoring public probably doesn't understand is we've got 10 facilities in this area, including Macon and Augusta. Augusta will make 11. So they've already closed 4 to get this one open. So that shows you their attempt to modernize and at least make an attempt to stay up with the 21st century here. The problem, though, is they do not communicate, or they did not communicate. And when you leave your customers in the dark, they can't make adjustments, or they can't make alternative plans. And that's where they need to step up and make sure that we understand what's going on out there. I know our district office would have loved to have had this information months ago. At least we could have been telling our constituents what was going on.
So you think there's a problem with communication with customers and communication within the facility, or something?
Well, there was definitely a problem in communication with the customers, okay? But I think that, that wasn't the reason that the mail dropped off, first class from 90% down to 50%. There was, the logistics issues and the staffing issues that were talked about. I think we're part of that problem. And now I think they've been able to address that, and I think we'll see, a light at the end of the tunnel, and it ain't a freight train.
Senator Ossoff, after he came out, he shared with us that he thought a lot of the issues linked back to poor management. Would you have any perspective on that? Would you agree?
I think that management was part of the issue. That was mentioned in here as well. Employees and management both. This indeed was the most difficult facility that they see across the entire United States was Atlanta. And they knew it was going to be tough. I like Mike said, I wish they would have communicated a little better on the front end of it. But I think they've got that management in place right now and the employees in place right now to continue to improve. And I expect within the next couple of months, not to be getting those phone calls that we're getting right now from constituents that are concerned, and rightly so, about their mail not being delivered on time.
Has this problem affected the entirety of all three of your districts? Representative Scott, has this affected all of your
Absolutely, 100%.
All the way to Valdosta?
All the way to Valdosta, Macon. I represent a lot of rural counties, and so I can tell you it has affected all of Georgia.
Was there anything notable you saw that was concerning when you were touring in there?
Can I say something that I saw that I think is good, that we haven't seen in government a lot in the past, is metrics. The management is actually following a lot of the same metrics that we see in the private sector now. And so if you're not using metrics, you don't know if you're improving. And so I was pleased that the management in the facility was able to show us the metrics, acknowledge where they had the problems. They know what caused the problems. They have gone to fix those problems, and now the metrics are moving in the right direction. And so I don't remember a time in my past where we've seen metrics used in the government and management very similar to what we're seeing in the private sector.
Can you talk about what specific questions you may have asked and what specific answers you may have gotten?
Well, a lot of what we gave right now were from the specific questions that we asked. How many regional processing centers, do they have in mind of creating? Where are they along that path? And how do you measure your metrics? I wanted to understand that too. And they gave some very, very open answers to us, and I was very pleased with it, actually. The fact that they acknowledged, hey, this is the issue, showed us the graph of where they measure the on-time delivery and where it wasn't up to par, and now where they are right now. I mean, they were very open, and that was very good to see, and I like it. So thank you.
How do you follow up with them and stick on them when Senator Ossoff was here? He kept saying maximum pressure was going to be applied until this got back up to where it needs to be. Is that true as well?
Well, I mean, I've been in contact with Postmaster General DeJoy as late as yesterday. So, I mean, I've had no problem reaching him, asking him questions, and, making sure that we were going to be able to get into here. And he's been open about what's been going on. And so, I think that'll continue. We're certainly going to keep that pressure moving forward so that we make sure, because this is important.
Mm-hmm.
This is so important,
Very.
especially when you have an economy like it is right now. And when you've got so many small businesses out there that depend on the mail to run on time, or people with the IRS. And one of the things I think that has helped them is they have added some additional staff here to get through some of these peak seasons, and they're going to continue to do that. We're coming up on election season again. We've gone through primaries. So you're going to see them to ramp up, which it's good to see someone acknowledge, hey, this is where we know we're going to have additional help, what we're going to have to do to get this thing through and make sure we don't drop the ball again on this problem.
I don't think it's, all of us who have been in business recognize that you set a goal and then you've got to let people work towards that goal. I mean, browbeating, for lack of a better terminology, of the people that are in there that have acknowledged where the challenges were, have outlined a plan to move it forward in the right direction. Instead of maximum pressure and browbeating, I think it would serve us well to simply follow the metrics. And as long as they're accomplishing the goals based on the timeline that they've set, that would be a win for the American citizens. And so I'm more interested in following the metrics and making sure that they accomplish the goals that they shared with us. And again, they were very open, they were very honest, they were transparent with us, and I have a lot of faith in them. Now, my faith in them is going to need to be verified based on the metrics, and I expect we'll get those updates, every 10 to 14 days.
I'll tell you that the success story of the state of Georgia and how fast we're growing has caused an issue for the Postal Service with their ability to actually meet the increasing demand. However, you have to go back and say, hey, how can we actually accomplish this and stay up with the state of Georgia? Like, for example, he said, if this was Detroit, Michigan, there wouldn't be an issue with processing capacity. But this is Atlanta, Georgia, which is growing tremendously. This facility back here is currently right now only at 60% of its capacity, which is phenomenal that the post office would build a facility that would anticipate increased demand far into the future. That they would do that now. The planning isn't there, but the facility and the machinery is there. And that's a good thing. So that's a success story.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate y'all
Thank you
coming
all.
out.